With all the real problems today, is erasing rainbow crosswalks really the hill that people want to die on? Welcome to hashtag Go Right with Peter Boykin. Today we're diving into a story that goes far beyond paint on pavement. It's about liberty, hypocrisy, and whether the Republican Party is wasting political capital fighting symbols instead of defending principles. Let's start in Gainesville. Back in 2019, rainbow crosswalks were painted downtown. They weren't paid for by taxpayers. The community raised the money themselves. These crosswalks welcomed residents and honored diversity. But now they're being erased. Not because Gainesville wanted it, but because the state of Florida threatened to withhold millions in critical funding. The city faced an impossible choice: keep the rainbows and the culture, or lose its bus system and road repairs. As Mayor Harvey Ward put it, Gainesville would be giving up its buses, its roads, everything. It's not local self-government, that's coercion. And Gainesville isn't alone. Orlando, Florida, watched the Pulse Memorial Crosswalk, installed by the state in 2017 to honor the 49 lives lost in the worst mass shooting of its time, scrubbed away overnight. No discussion, no ceremony, just gone. The state left the city with an $85,000 bill for removals of other things in Orlando as well. It didn't even ask for. In Daytona's checkered flag crosswalks tied to the racing culture, ordered plain gray. Seminole County's green safety crossings, erased. Even colorful crosswalks near schools designed to keep kids safe, now collateral damage. The justification, quote, uniform safety standards. But the evidence doesn't back it up. Bloomberg's asphalt art safety study found crashes involved pedestrians and cyclists dropped by 50% where crosswalks were painted. Injury crashes fell by 37%. Driver yielding went up by 27%. Colorful crosswalks make roads safer, not more dangerous. If this was about safety, the state would be repainting every faded crosswalk in Florida, not erasing bright ones that work. So what is this really about? Politics. Governor Ron DeSantis signed a law banning what FDOT calls, quote, social, political, or ideological messages in crosswalks. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy went further, saying taxpayers expect safe streets, not rainbow banners. DeSantis himself said, quote, we will not allow our state roads to be commandeered for political purposes. That's the spin. But the truth is, the Pulse Memorial wasn't political propaganda. It was community-funded remembrance. Gainesville wasn't breaking rules. It followed them. These projects were not taxpayer burdens. They were grassroots investments. And now, because of politics, Orlando is stuck with an $85,000 bill to erase perfectly good paint. Now, before we continue, I just want to tell you my main idea after all of this. If the federal government wants to put forth and say that only money will be spent on specific uniform highways and things like that, I have no problem with that. Taxpayer dollars should pay for the plain, default, whatever's safe according to them. And of course, anything above that should be either an exception, which in these cases, a lot of these were already exceptions and should have been grandfathered in, or the community pitches in and pays for them. The biggest problem was that when they put this out, they literally said that the ones existing had to go. Instead of leaving them alone, they had to go. And they used the ultimatum of, if you don't pull them up, we'll take away your future money. That's where there's no compromise. That's where they literally are targeting rainbow crosswalks and everything else is collateral damage. That is where I disagree with. Not that the fact that taxpayers should be paying for these, because a lot of people responded to me that taxpayers shouldn't pay for it. I completely understand that. But individuality, custom, paint jobs, and the culture that goes behind these in these different areas for bringing in tourism, etc., as long as the city pays for it, as long as the county pays for it, as long as individuals pay for it, then what's the problem? So let's move on. Here's the hypocrisy. Conservatives rallied against Cracker Barrel when the company tried to swap its rustic logo for a bland new one. Social media exploded. Trump himself weighed in, and guess what? The people forced Cracker Barrel to reverse course. They reversed course so much that they're not even going to redesign the stores anymore. That was celebrated as a victory for tradition and a stand against corporate blandness. But when the state of Florida, or the United States itself, imposes bland uniformity on communities, suddenly many of those same conservatives are silent, or worse, cheer it on. Blandness is tyranny when it comes from corporations, but liberty when it comes from government. That's not principle, that's partisan convenience. And it shows the deeper breakdown of our politics. Nobody is willing to compromise. Everything gets shoved under the label of, quote, DEI, or, quote, woke, and nothing is sacred. Not even a memorial for 49 murdered Americans at Pulse. Not even community-funded safety murals at schools. In a time when leaders talk about cutting waste, this crusade actually created waste. $85,000 wasted in Orlando alone. Perfectly good streets were destroyed and repainted gray because the state demanded conformity. As Ronald Reagan once warned, freedom is never more than a generation away from extinction. Pride, at its core, was never about indoctrination or sex. It was about survival, about preserving rights, about saying no one has the power to erase us. And yet here we are, erasing symbols of memory under the guise of, quote, safety, while studies prove those symbols save lives. So let me ask the question plainly. Is erasing rainbow crosswalks really the hill that my fellow Republicans want to die on? While inflation rages, while roads crumble, while our borders face crises, do we really want the fight to be over paint on asphalt? Because this isn't just about rainbows. It's about whether local communities can govern themselves without state coercion. It's about whether we're going to be consistent on liberty or only defend it when it suits our politics. Here's the call of action. Speak up. Contact your legislatures. Demand that FDOT follow evidence, not ideology. Stand up with your local leaders when they fight for the right to honor their communities. And don't let party loyalty blind you to government overreach. Because if they can erase a rainbow today, they can erase anything tomorrow. This is bigger than paint. This is about liberty. Gainesville, Orlando, Daytona, their communities were silenced by the stroke of a paintbrush. But we still have a voice. And if we don't use it, liberty itself will be painted over in gray. Remember, we fight for what's right because it's time to go right.